munitions.
Right.
And you returned. I think you said you returned. You were going back.
So we're going there you go. We're going back to the base camp. I don't know exactly where the base
Okay,
camp is.
after you demolished the munitions, the big cloud, you said, did I hear you correctly? You went back to the area that you did the demolition, correct?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
yes.
So you said yes. Okay.
Yes.
What rank were you at the time?
I was a specialist E4.
Okay. So were you in MOP 4 when you went back?
No, not that we know. No.
You didn't have MOP 4 and you didn't have MA paper on the vehicles or anything like that? You didn't do
They
anything?
had we had our chain of command. I guess they would have all that stuff. There were 256s and M8s and all that. I mean, chemical papers and stuff.
Right. So you didn't do any of those precautions when you went back, correct?
I don't know if it was done or not. I know I didn't, but the chain of command might have done.
You weren't in MOP 4 when you went back?
No, not that no.
Okay, that's
Only thing we did was don our protective mask when the inmate
So
alarms
you
went
went
off.
MOP level 1?
MOP level 1, just the mask. We didn't put nothing else on.
A MOP 4 is referring to protective clothing.
Yeah. If it goes all the way to MOP level 5, MOP level 5 would be everything on plus the rain gear over the overgarments. And we had a MOP level 1 through level 5 during that time. So I was just following the orders, what we had us do.
So you might want to indicate, different MOP levels.
Yeah.
MOP 0, MOP 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is actually what, decontamination?
5 would be just extra overgarments. We put the wetter gear over the protective overgarments for extra protection.
Okay,
if needed.
explain to them what MOP levels, 1, 2, 3.
Well, let's see if I can remember this. Okay. MOP level 0 is you have everything on hand. 1 would usually be overhead. You put the overhead garments on. Protect them.
Go ahead and shout.
Protective mask. Protective mask on is the first thing you're going to do when any type of alarm goes off because you're going to be able to breathe. Then you don your pants and your undergarments. Then your gloves. Then your boots. Then MOP level 5 would be put the wet leather gear on. Would be over the pants and the jacket for the extra liner. That would be the 5 that I remember.
Just speak real loud.
Okay.
Okay, question back here from your best friend. John, I got the narrative that you gave me while I was in the hospital.
Okay.
And knowing...
I pretty much tried to go off what I remembered on that. I wanted to do it more.
Yeah, you did great, buddy.
Okay, I tried to memorize it, plus whatever else.
Can you explain to everyone why you think the Central Intelligence Agency, EOD, pulled out? They knew. They knew when they pulled out.
The only thing I could think of is they had to know why would they evacuate, why would they leave.
And can you also,
I don't know why they would do that.
And how many days did you guys rig C4?
It's like I don't know exactly how many days, 3 to 5, or like a 3 to 5 to 6 day operation. But it was a ceasefire when the detonation went off, when the rain started, when the heavy rain started, everything was called for ceasefire.
Can you? That's up to you if you want to.
What's that?
That's up to you if you want to share this. Can you share anything medically, what's going on with you right now with my friends here in the Tea Party?
Yeah, well, I'm in and out of the VA every week. I just seen a pulmonary specialist the other day for my lungs. They're ready to do a CAT scan on my lungs, and they did some blood work. If the CAT scan comes out positive on my lungs, they're going to take a biopsy of my lungs. I just learned about this a couple days ago. I'm in and out of the PTSD clinic. I have a lot of memories, a lot of bad memories, what I share with you guys. There's a lot more to than what I just told you about. I just wanted to share this about Chemosia. All kind of stuff. I got a problem with my feet and ankles, my knees, my elbows hurt, my back hurts, left shoulder hurts. I'm always in a lot of pain. I take inhalers a lot, get a lot of hand numbness, wake up a lot and out of my sleep a lot, at least 4 or 5 times a night. I got to shake my hands, move my hands when they get numb. I don't know what's causing that. VA's working on that too.
Tremors.
Huh?
Tremors.
Oh, my wife says I got tremors too. I'll shake, sometimes I'll shake without no reason.
You have a respirator too. Can you tell them about the respirator you have to use daily for breathing?
Oh, I talk about inhalers. Yeah, I take a couple inhalers too.
Folks, I was just notified there's a little white car right out front here. It has your lights on. If somebody who parked out here and has a little white car. Todd, is that you? No. All right, that's you. Oh, you want a question?
Yeah, let me take the mic up here together. So everybody can hear.
Christine, you want me to come out with you?
I don't know if you know or if Representative Bonifilio knows, but is the VA doing any sort of systematic follow-up of the either of the soldiers as a whole or as high risk of exposure group or anything like that? Is there any systematic epidemiology, that sort of thing, being done?
Well, what I'm understanding, when I was with pulmonary the other day and neurology last week, for neurology, there's really no test for the sarin or mustard gas poison. I asked them, I said there was 600 something thousand people in the Gulf War. Over half of them are already dead. A lot of them are younger than me. And it seemed like they'd had tests or have other ways, blood tests or ways they. Yeah, I was listening to everybody once. But apparently for pulmonary, they do have a way to find out if there is a problem, if you have it. You know, that's what they're talking about, the CAT scan, possible biopsy of my lungs.
Folks, you will call to memory a thing called Gulf War syndrome. And this is probably the same sort of thing that's going on with John's autoimmune system. It's attacking a lot of different places in his body. Gulf War syndrome came from those weapons, chemical and biologicals, and also the antidotes that we gave our soldiers before they went. So when you think of that Gulf War syndrome and how many of those soldiers actually suffered from that Gulf War syndrome, it's absolutely amazing that we wouldn't even admit it for a very long time, wouldn't even say that it existed. And John's getting some breakthroughs from the VA hospital and from the government on it.
Joe.
Joe?
Good, Joe.
Yeah,
Very loud, real loud. Loud.
oh, okay.
There you go.
No, you can be loud.
I got a loud mouth.
We heard
Yeah, I can understand why the Bush administration would want to cover up the fact that a good portion of those weapons were courtesy of the U.S. But what bewilders me is how they were relatively successful in covering it up. When all those special forces, you guys knew they were there, ones that blew them up, and then of course you had the consequences of all these soldiers coming down with this Gulf War syndrome that they couldn't figure out what was causing it. And wouldn't a better narrative for the Bush administration have been to say, yeah, we found the weapons, we blew them up, and as opposed to them saying that they never found them, because Bush took a lot of flack for supposedly never finding these things.
John will take this question after I say, there was a reason that we couldn't tell the truth. Number one, when George Bush Daddy was CIA director, it was illegal to do what he did. he could have gone to jail. Number two, we needed a reason to go in other than what the truth was. See, remember what I said? The truth really was that we had to reestablish Iraq's sale of oil in US dollars, because if that caught on, it was bigger than, that is a real weapon of mass destruction for our economy. If it is that the petrodollar fails. So we can't let and folks, what we're doing in Syria, what we did in Libya, that's all for the same reason. Because all of these countries are threatening to dump the dollar. So Joe, to answer to your question, I'll give the mic to John. Answer to your question is, why didn't, you remember the CIA, the story was the CIA reported back to the president that they found him. Then all of a sudden, oh no they didn't, that's going to be in trouble. But we need a reason. So the reason was that he had him. That's the reason we went in, rather than telling people actually what the truth was about we had to rescue our dollar.
Did you mention more?
Yeah.
Well, I have back to Joel's question.
Oh yeah, let's answer Joe's question.
We're just following orders because I didn't know what was what. We were told to destroy it, and we split all the warehouses up. Our squad in charge of one, and another one, and we did what we were told to do.
Honorably.
Honorably.
Okay, Doug.
And what
Follow up.
Can I follow up really quick? What,
Yeah.
Once you started feeling the effects of these chemical weapons, were you able to don your protective suits, your gas masks right away?
We donned our protective masks. As soon as you started hearing those sirens going off, man, everybody stopped what they're doing. It was just a quick reaction. Everybody's just like sitting there, and
Okay, Doug.
I'm thinking when I worked at the VA for a while during my training, we had a lot of the Vietnam vets that have been exposed to the Agent Orange, and so there was a decades-long denial of that being related to Agent Orange or dioxins, that sort of thing. But it sort of seems to me that we do this after every war, that our first reaction is denial, 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 instead of systematically following the veterans. Okay, so you don't necessarily need a test. Okay, if the whole idea of epidemiology is you collect all the data first. Okay, collect the symptoms, where they were serving, what they were exposed to, etc. And then you say, okay, well, is there a pattern to this? Then you can start looking for tests or whatever. But we call this epidemiology, just gathering all the data. And it seems to me that rather than denial, we ought to have a much better system for following the health of our veterans.
That was Doug Smith, retired University of Michigan professor of pathology. So he does know what he's talking about. Sitting next to him is Professor Kaufman, retired in protest in order to have him teach China missile launch technologies of the Trident missile, I believe. He protested that and retired in protest because he knows about the China threat. So we have a great deal of respect for both of those professors.
Question over here.
How you doing?
Hi. I'm a little bit confused about the weapons of mass destruction, because it sounds like this goes back to the 91, the Gulf War back then.
Yeah, it's like the March and April time frame.
So and those got destroyed by you?
We didn't destroy all of them. But they ceased
okay,
fire.
so some of them were still left?
They were still left. They were still left. We didn't destroy all of them. They ceased fire when the atmosphere, rain and stuff started to get real bad.
Okay, so they never
And all the chemical alarms went off there. And
so that was the end of that. And so did you destroy like half of it? A third of it?
we just my unit there, we destroyed probably about, I'd say between 8 and 10 of them, 8 or 10 of the warehouses.
Out of
There's probably between 30 to 50.
So we still had a lot of warehouses.
We still had a lot over there, but they continued demolition missions. Apparently, like for the video, all the way up to like fall of '91. I was already back in the United States. They were still doing demolition missions there. So.
And they never really quite got it all.
Yeah, I have something to say about that.
And then.
Oh, go ahead. Do your follow-up.
So then those are the weapons that Saddam Hussein was, for example, was.
Yes.
So he had access to that.
He had
That's
access.
what we were afraid of him.
Yeah. Very good question you asked about were they all destroyed and how many were left. John verified that over 2/3 were left.
At least 2/3.
Two-thirds.
There's a lot there still.
Well, we have satellite pictures of truck convoys leaving Iraq, going to, guess where? Syria. So in the Bekaa Valley of Syria, they have now, and we openly know it because they talk about it, they have those chemical and biological weapons that Assad has used on his own Free Syria Army personnel, people who are trying to take Syria back. And these are a lot of Christian Syrians who want their country back. But those weapons of mass destruction, that was a very good question you asked, have been shipped by our military, and even that, satellite proof of it. I mean, we couldn't tell what was in them, but truck convoys leaving Qamishli to the Bekaa Valley in Syria, and we're still in denial about it. And we're still fighting it. And those chemical weapons are still killing people. So good question.
And I just can I make one little comment?
Yeah, sure, go right ahead.
Talking about these different wars, things happen. My father took part in those. He was airborne.
He was second airborne, and he took part in the nuclear test in Nevada. And for a long time, they denied that he took part in the test. Supposedly, all his records were lost in St. Louis when he was fired there. But eventually he found his records. But we were never to get when he died.
I'm still trying to get my 201 file record. Been waiting over a month and a half now. Through the NPC out of St. Louis, Missouri.
Suffice to say, the government operates in a cloud of secrecy. She said that her father was involved in the nuclear testing out in Los Alamos, Nevada. Yeah, and so, but they never could get the facts on that, and her father died, and they still didn't have those facts. Never got that. Tim, speak loudly. And the reason we want you to speak loud, folks, we're reserving this, but we're going to put this up on YouTube, so the people who, we want them to hear the question. I apologize for our equipment.
John, can you share with everybody what you shared with me? That
I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Tim.
the letter that you got from the Department of Defense that said you were at ground zero, and they finally admitted it after Schwarzkopf lied, after Powell lied, in the Qamishli report, after they lied in front of Congress, and then you finally got that letter from the Department of Defense that said, oh, you were at ground zero. That was a mass destruction. Can you share that with
I did get a letter in 1995, and they said that we may have been exposed to small elements of sarin, mustard gas, and they started, I did do a test in the Miami VA and did some blood work. VA called me back, said he wanted me to come back in and wanted to talk to me about my blood work. So the day I went back, I was going to go back to the Miami VA. This is back in 97, 96, 97. They said there was nothing, they decided to say there was nothing wrong with my blood work. And that was back in 96, 97. Letter was dated like 95, 96. And I remember I had to sign for that letter. That's the one you're talking about, Tim?
the most recent one. You got one here recently that they said.
Oh, I talk about the flyer I got within the last couple months. They're saying that there was exposure to sarin neural poisoning. over there in the VA letter. That was had on a couple months ago. It was about Tennessee. That is correct. Go ahead, sir.
If this all gets YouTube, will it affect you in your treatment? Will they come down on you, or in any way will it limit how the VA treats you?
I hope they don't treat me any differently. They do treat me very, very well when I'm up there. I'm just trying to get answers. I think that especially the pulmonary is very concerned about my breathing test as another day. They're really they're concerned about it.
Let them know that he's being tested for smoke in his blood and that he might be having COPD, and he's not a smoker. There's all those oil fires that were burning in Iraq when they were over there, and Saddam set the oil fields on fire. They were all his people were breathing in that smoke. So now he's starting to have more problems.
Joe?
There you go.
Yeah, so when the narrative was being put out that, you know, the weapons of mass destruction were never found, what were you and your fellow brothers in arms thinking about that?
Well, during the time, we didn't look at it as weapons of mass destruction. We looked at it as following orders, doing what they want us to do is destroy these ammunition warehouses. Not until later on did they learn it was weapons of mass destruction from the letters I received, and from other soldiers that are still alive today that would tell me about it, especially some squad leaders.
Remember the video where Schwarzkopf kept referring to them as ammunition dumps? And I think that was a talking point rather than chemical biological weapons. It could have been just rockets, just ammunition, maybe bullets, shells, or whatever. But he was very careful to call them ammunition dumps. So to answer your question, John was just destroying ammunition dumps at that time. But turned out to be something different in their minds.
Are we kind of putting Gulf War I and Gulf War II things together when we're talking about weapons of mass destruction? Because it was Gulf War II where we said we didn't find any weapons of mass destruction, and the reason to go in was to find them, etc. Whereas you're talking about Gulf War I. Now, I have heard reports that older weapons were found and destroyed, and there were similar kinds of problems in Gulf War II. Do you know anything about that? Or?
What I'm understanding is that they were found in the first Gulf War. In the second Gulf War, they went back to destroy the rest, or even, as Dennis was talking about, they evacuated a lot of the stuff, turned over to Syria. So the only thing that comes to my mind is weapons of mass destruction. They're going back to destroy what we didn't get. It's the same caches. Go ahead, sir.
Joe?
First of all, thank you for your unbelievable sacrifice.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I see you digging deep, and I appreciate it. I'm sure we all just appreciate this unbelievable sacrifice. This is something
I'm just trying to speak the truth, their integrity, that's all I'm here for.
I mean, we're spending an hour with you. I mean, you get to go home to your wife and she's there with you every day. This isn't like a suit or clothing that you can take off. You carry this with you. This isn't just something that you're sharing with us, and that's something I know everybody here understands. Something you take everywhere you go, every second of every day. So we appreciate that. The one question I did have was, any of these munition dumps were any of them climate controlled, maybe to preserve something biological, an organism of some? Was any of them? Did they keep them cool? Was there anything like that? Or were they just subjected to? I mean, if it's 100 in the desert heat or 110, they had to be like what? I mean, you're cooking eggs in there. It's like an oven, right? But were they cooled? Were they climate controlled?
Well, when we did the demolition missions, it was March of '91. It was still like winter time there. It was like in low 70s during the day. The weather was apparently really nice during the day, and it get cold at night. You get down to 30s, 40s at night during that time. In the summertime, it would be extremely hot. But one thing I noticed about the warehouses that I was inside, they're enclosed, but there's openings. You can just walk right in there. So the heat would get inside there, but at the same time, it being enclosed, it would keep direct sunlight from hitting them with the enclosures. That's a good question.
I guess they weren't too concerned about the biologicals becoming unsafe.
Go ahead, Doc.
Professor Kaufman.
Doug can correct me on this, but I think anthrax is a very robust critter.
A very robust
Critter.
critter, yes.
I mean, you can put anthrax in an autoclave, you know, at boiling, above boiling temperatures, right? And you won't kill it. So no, I don't think it's going to be killed by the heat of the desert.
They say you won't kill it?
It
No,
won't kill it.
you wouldn't kill it.
Congressman?
Yeah, quick
Yes,
question
sir.
for the doctor. Did they have anthrax vaccinations back
Oh, yes.
91?
The first Gulf War,
Yes,
they
they did.
They were experimental, right?
Okay, so did you get all 7 shots?
Well, I got some shots there. I know I got some ones in the buttocks, and I got ones in the arm. And also took the pills too. They're starts with a P. It's like a 10-letter word, but it was also more or less they're using us as experimental for this, I guess, for these drugs.
And one other question, and you don't have to answer this because it's personal, but if you want, feel free. Are you taking any medication for cholesterol?
Not at this time.
Well, the reason is one of the after effects or side effects of taking cholesterol medication is sore muscles and some of the pain that you were experiencing. Also, vaccinations, because I know, the chemicals they put into vaccinations to preserve it have some side effects that can be long lasting. And I'm just not there. Yeah.
Folks, Gulf War syndrome is an autoimmune system. I know a little bit about this because I was personally affected by it. Not that I was there, but that I contracted autoimmune disorder in the form of psoriatic arthritis and polymyalgia. And it happened right after I went to a rally or a convention of a nurse speaking named Joyce Riley, who was speaking about Gulf War syndrome. John knows who she was. And she was trying to expose the government cover-up on it. My wife would verify this. I'm not making this up, but 2 weeks after I went there, and her saying that it's airborne, you can get it from clothing, and we had a whole house full, Ramada Inn full of former military from Iraq. 2 weeks after that, I came down with such pain, such joint pain, that I couldn't even button my own clothes. I couldn't walk. I thought it was done. But there was a quick fix for it called prednisone. Now, prednisone is an immune inhibitor, autoimmune inhibitor. It stops your immune. And Gulf War syndrome, folks, is autoimmune reacting to anthrax vaccinations, possibly anthrax, possibly the chemicals you were talking about. Anything that is a microorganism comes into your body, your autoimmune system is going to go out after it, trying to destroy it, but in its effort, it destroys your joints and it destroys your muscles. And that could be a lot of what John is going on.
One more question in regards to that is the uranium depleted
uranium
used on the bunkers at Khalil Air Base and Nazareth, some of the other places that were hit. Does that have an after effect that you know of?
I don't know of anything, but it's not my specialty.
Okay, because and part of the problem with researching, just so you know, and I've been to hearings for this, is you really have to pinpoint it. And like the doctor said, you have to do some kind of what was the word you used?
Epidemiology.
Yeah. And compare that to people of, for instance, that didn't serve of the same age and so on and so forth. You have to compare that and compare the military veterans that served there and see if there's anything out of the ordinary where you may be susceptible to more illnesses because you served there versus those that didn't serve there. I'll give you an example. Love Canal, Hooker Chemical Company, back in the 60s, I think it was. Kids, former toxic waste dump of Hooker Chemical Company was in the water. These drums were stored. It was in the water. The drums leached into the groundwater. Groundwater leached into the basements, subdivisions nearby. Mothers who were pregnant had a higher than normal birth defects than other populations of similar demographics. Does that make sense? Did I make myself clear? So that's the problem with identifying anything, including like Agent Orange, which I'm very much familiar with. That's part of the problem. So there's a lot of factors that have to be taken into consideration. Plus the fact that the government has a propensity to cover up things because they're afraid to admit, and most of the time they don't even know because they're irresponsible in the way they handle some of these things and the way they make their decisions. It's more a political agenda than it is sometimes a proper military agenda. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that makes sense. But I like how they're trying to do something now, and over half the personnel that was in the first Gulf War has already passed. A lot of them a lot younger than I was during the time. I was 24 when I was over there.
And how old are you now?
48.
Are the questions done?
Well, no. You have some comment? Joe was raising his hand for a question.
Kristen.
No, I want to be last. I want to do something else.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be good. I'm not aware of it, but I know it's going to be good.
When the chemical alarms first started going off, did you state that the 40-some warehouses were all blown up simultaneously?
No, I only blew up like 5 to 7 at one time there.
Oh, okay.
We did like 5 to 7.
So
that's what our platoon destroyed.
So after those chemical alarms were set off, did they make it a point of looking at what these other warehouses had in them before they blew them up?
I wasn't part of the immediate chain of command during that time. I don't know exactly what they did before during their reconnaissance or their intel they received. But I just followed orders from our chain of command that were being a specialist, being a Spec 4 during that time.
And I gotta wonder if the ground soil in those areas is still contaminated to this day, because that stuff doesn't go away very well.
Just still blowing in the wind.
Yeah, that's it.
An area called the Pit, known by the United Nations Security Council. They lied too. It's the Pit. It's still there. Cyclosarin, sarin gas, toxins, mustard gas.
All right, this has been very informative, very good. I love question and answers. We're going to make Professor Smith's question the last. We're 5 to 11. I wanted to get done by 11. Whatever Christine has is going to be good, and then I'm going to close. And as you leave, folks, don't forget to help us out. We need to raise about $150, so give us a little hand as you leave. So Professor Smith, and then Christine.
Well, I just, it's more of a comment that, you would think that between the first Gulf War and the second Gulf War, that they would have learned something. I mean, they must have, learn a little Arabic, so they could read the labels of the boxes or something, I mean, it just seems to me that they went back to some of these same dumps, and the military intelligence must have known that these things were there in the second Gulf War, and yet they didn't seem to do a better job the second time around.
They couldn't let us know that we were the origination of those weapons. They couldn't let us hear that. And quite frankly, folks, most of us were sleeping. I was. And yet, look at what our slumber has allowed. Because there'll be more. There'll be more. Christine? Hang on.
I don't want to presume anything here, but I'd like to pray for you if you would allow us to do that. as a group.
Christine?
I want to